Hi, this is Richard with MyWheelAdapters.com. I want to explain to you some of the basic things that you need to know when you start to buy a wheel adapter. My first word of advice when considering wheel adapters: if you haven't bought your wheels yet, buy wheels to fit your car. Wheel adapters are for wheeling when you've got wheels that don't fit your car and you want to make them fit your car. One of the first things you have to know and understand is that a wheel adapter has thickness. Any adapter must have thickness because the adapter bolts to your car, and then the lug nut goes down into it and bolts onto the to hold it to the vehicle. Then your wheel would bolt onto the studs that stick out of the adapter. Okay, so you have to have some room here, some thickness, to put on your lug nuts. And your car has studs sticking out on it like these. That lug nut will go on, and the lug nut and stud and everything has to go down into the adapter and not come past the surface, okay, of the adapter, so your wheel can rest firmly against the face of the adapter. More people have a problem with than anything else is when they put their adapters on their car, the stud from their car will stick up past the adapter. See that? Like if this was their car and this is the adapter, even though this is 1.25 inches thick, they put it on their car and tighten it down and they think it's all good, but see, that stud is sticking up just ever so slightly there, and that will cause failure. And so it'll wear and get loose and then come off. You may break the studs off the adapter or just come off and lose it. That is the most common problem. But you can't hit that. See? Or if you've got a thin adapter, sometimes even the lug nut will stick up past the adapter and touch. Okay, this one is, it might barely clear if it was torqued down in there, but it's still touching just a little bit. You can't have anything come past this adapter. Your wheel has to ride flat against this surface. You can use a smaller, a lower profile lug nut. If your stud on your vehicle is longer than your adapter is thick, it must be cut down. That is first and foremost the most important thing. Second thing about the thickness is that it moves your wheel out. Okay? Now, I am not in the installation business. I did that for many years, and I don't do it anymore. Okay? But a competent installer can tell you whether moving your wheel out relative to the offset of the wheel and the size of the tire and wheel and the offset of your vehicle, whether or not it will work. Okay, most vehicles, all things considered, the right size tires and all, you can move them 1 inch or possibly even 1.25 inches. Okay, but it does affect, depending on the size of your tire and the offset of your wheel, it will affect how far out the tire sits from the car. And it can sit too far out and get into your fenders. This is something to be aware of, something to check into first. A note about my company: I only sell new wheel adapters. So if you buy a wheel adapter from me and you bolt it on the car, it is no longer new. Okay, I don't take them back if they've been bolted on the car. Next, and sometimes in shipping, an adapter will get a little banged up. Okay, this one, you can see the little marks here. On this one, you can see the little marks here. This is where in shipping, the end of another adapter stud's got against it and banged against this and made some little marks here. Okay, it really doesn't hurt anything, but it doesn't look good. You know, I try to get the adapters packed by the warehouse properly and everything, but if you get them with a few little scratches on them, it won't affect the performance of the adapter. You just need a nice smooth surface to mount to. Now, differences in adapters. This is a 1-inch thick 5-lug single drill adapter. It's single drilled because there is one set of 5 holes and of course only 5 studs. That's why we call it single drill. This is a dual drill adapter. It is dual drilled. It can fit 2 different bolt patterns, so it has 2 sets of 5 holes, or 10 holes in total, and 5 wheel studs, so it fits 2 different vehicles. This particular one fits 5 on 112 and 5 on 130 bolt patterns, going to 5x4.5. But there are 2 different types of adapter. Properly installed, they both work just fine. Again, I stress installation is your most important factor. Okay, this is a 2-piece adapter. This is the bottom piece and the top piece. They're bolted together with these recessed Allen head bolts. Okay, it is for changing. This particular one is to change a 5-lug. There's actually 2, this is a dual drill 5-lug, so there's actually 10 holes back here, which is 2 different 5-lug patterns. Okay, to change over to a 6-lug. Okay, so you can put your 6-lug wheels on your 5-lug vehicle. The drawback to these is the thickness. This is 2 inches thick. Okay, I have some 4 to 5 lug adapters that are 1.5 inches thick, but still the thickness here is a major consideration when using 2-piece adapters. Also, these bolts, the way it works, your car is here. This first piece is bolted onto your car just like any regular adapter. Then the second piece is bolted onto the first piece, and then the wheel is bolted onto the second piece. Anytime you install any wheel adapter, that you torque them down by hand. The lug nuts, use a torque wrench, and you go by the torque specs for the vehicle and tighten the lug nuts to the proper tightness, and do it in a star pattern. You go tighten, 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 tighten. Crisscross. Okay, now on these bolts that hold these 2 pieces together, I recommend using blue Loctite. Not for the pieces, not for the bolts, or not for the lug bolts or lug nuts, but for the bolts that holds the 2 pieces together. I recommend using blue Loctite, and torque these bolts down by hand to 80 pounds, very carefully. Again, in a crisscross star pattern. Yeah, these 5-lug single drill, 5-lug dual drill, two-piece dual drill, two-piece single drill is the same, except it would only have one bolt pattern in the back. These are all stock adapters that we have on the shelf. They're less expensive. They work just fine for most applications. It's what 95 or 98% of my business consists of. The best way to go with a wheel adapter, like many other things in life, is also the most expensive. And that is to have a custom built wheel adapter. Okay, this is custom built, made in America. And it's not the made in America part that is really the big part of it, as is the way it's made. Okay, the hole, the center of this hole is made to fit the center bore sticking out on your vehicle, and then we've got this lip sticking out here that fits a particular wheel. Okay, this particular adapter is to go on a Ford Explorer. We're going to take a Ford Explorer 5 on 4.5 inch bolt pattern and bolt on a factory Ford Expedition wheel, which is a 5 on 135 millimeters with a 14x2 stud. Now, this particular application is for a Ford. Okay, Ford uses a factory wheel that uses a lug nut like this. Okay, it's a flat bottom, got like a built-in washer. They only come in two sizes. They come in a 14, well, they come in three sizes. They come in a 14 by 1.5, a 14 by 2, and a 12 by 175. And you have to match the lug nut with the wheel and center cap, because if your center cap off of your Ford truck didn't fit the lug nut, or if you had a 14 millimeter lug nut, the center cap don't fit the 12 millimeter lug nuts, and so you have to match everything up very carefully. But this type of lug nut has to have this center hub sticking out to center it up. Okay, on a regular application, the bevel on this lug nut, it is a 60-degree angle right here, and this angle matches down in the hole and centers up the lug nut. It also centers up the wheel. Okay, but for this Ford with the flat bottom lug nut, it doesn't have the bevel to center anything up. So if you're going to put the factory wheels on that require this lug nut, you need to have this lip made for that wheel, which is a custom application. So we can do this. Alright, now after you've decided what kind of adapter you need, then you need to know your bolt patterns. You know, a 4, 6, and 8 lug wheel measures across the center. You measure from the center of the lug, or the center of the stud, across to the center of the stud. Simple. Straight across the middle, center to center, for 4, 6, and 8 lug only. For a 5 lug wheel, it does not measure the same. A lot of people get into trouble with that. You don't measure center to center. You go from this stud to this stud. You go from one, you skip one, you go to the next one. But it's not center to center. It's from the back side to the center. Or if we're on the holes, it goes from the back side of the hole all the way across the hole, across to the center of this one. Weird, but it's the way it is. But generally a 1/4 inch longer, or a 1/4 inch bigger than center to center, or just about. Okay? So be aware of that if you're measuring. Now, if you can tell us what your vehicle is, and we can go off of the vehicle, no problem, with fitment there. But you need to know what the bolt pattern measurement for your wheel is. If you buy the wrong adapters, you're going to have to pay some shipping to get the right ones to you. After you've decided that your wheel and offset and everything is going to accept the thickness and it's not going to hit or rub anything, and you've got the you got the bolt pattern for the car and the bolt pattern for the wheel, then you need to think about lug nuts. Okay, just like this adapter has a 14x2 stud in it, and this adapter has a 12 by 1.5 stud in it, and this adapter has a 14 by 1.5 stud in it. So just like these have different studs in them, your vehicle, different vehicles have different size studs in them. And you can't, like if you buy this adapter and you go to put it on your car, these lug nuts may or may not work to put it on the car, because the studs from your car may or may not be the same size as the studs in the adapter. So you need to be aware of that first, as to whether or not the lug nuts that come with the adapter will fit your car, or whether you're going to use them to hold the wheel, or whether you won't be able to use them at all. Like if you want chrome lug nuts and these open-ended lug nuts come with it, and your car has a different size, then you don't get to use these lug nuts, but they come with the adapter anyway. So it's all things to look at and consider. I am an expert and willing to help you figure all this stuff out. If you want to call me or email me, I'm getting more and more busy on the phone, so email is actually preferred, but I will help you get the right items for your vehicle. Now, when you get your adapter, after you figured out that you got the right bolt pattern and everything, and you order it all up, you still want to take and slip fit the adapter on your vehicle and slip it into your wheel. Make sure everything lines up right. Okay, and then slip your wheel up and slip the adapter up together, and make sure everything looks like you're going to have enough clearance and all, because once you bolt these on your vehicle, they're yours. If you don't bolt them down, you don't mess them up, you can send them back. Now, next thing, I on a rare occasion, I have had people think that they could and somehow alter these adapters. That is not at all recommended, and in 99% of the cases is not going to work. I don't recommend you knock the studs out, that you do anything. They should not be, that you shouldn't have to force anything. It should slip right on and slip right in the wheel, and everything just fits just smooth as can be, without any beating, banging, forcing whatsoever. Drawing them in with the lug nuts, nothing like that is necessary. If it's right, it should slip right on there. Okay? Then you put your adapter on the car. You get the right lug nuts that go down into the adapter and have the conical seat on them, like I showed you, the bevel that fits, that matches the adapter. Now Mercedes and Honda and a few cars have a rounded seat on their lug nut. That's not right for the adapter. You have to have the right lug nuts for your wheel, the right lug nuts for the adapter. You put your adapter on. you take and you snug your bolts down in a crisscross pattern, snug them down to where that everything's all evened up, and then you tighten them down, crisscross, over and over like that. Okay? And I usually do them in 2 stages. You know, I'll run them down to, well, 3 stages. I'll snug them, and then tighten them down tight, and then finish them off with to the required torque specs, making sure always to do it in a star pattern or a crisscross pattern. Then when your adapter's on there, take something and slide over top of that hole. Make sure that lug nut or stud is not sticking out past that adapter so that it hits the back of the wheel. Okay? Then you're ready for your wheel. Put your wheel on here and attach the wheel with the proper lug nuts to fit the studs properly. If you have a 12 by 1.5 stud, you have to have a 12 by 1.5 lug nut, but the lug nut also has to be the right kind of lug nut for the wheel. There's many different kinds of lug nuts. I've made a video about that too. It's too big to go into here. I'm already spending way too much time. Okay, so now that you know that your studs may be different from your vehicle, lug nuts may be required, fitment has to be right, center bore can make a difference. You know, there are situations where the center bore of the vehicle is too big for the bolt pattern. Like if I had a vehicle that required 108 millimeter center bore, and I wanted to put this 4.5 inch bolt pattern, I'd be cutting all the way into these studs over into here, so it won't work. I can't put a 5-on-4.5 bolt pattern on a vehicle that takes a 108 millimeter center bore unless I somehow get out past the hub sticking out on the vehicle. It can sometimes be done if it's just small, 1/2 inch or less. But if you got a big hub, you know, sticking out 1 inch or 2 inches or something like that, just forget it. Get you some different wheels. But this is Richard with MyWheelAdapters.com, 423-704-0407. I am available to help you to get the adapters that you need for your car. Send me an email at mywheeladapters@gmail.com or call me and let's get it right. Thank you and have a blessed day.